Aries, it's been a minute, but I'm here to give you a little reading. Been feeling like there's something that Spirit wants me to get across, so I'm using the Rider-Waite deck. Basic stuff. I mean, I pulled out a couple of other decks, but I think this is the one that's really speaking to me the most. So I'm going to lay out some cards and we're going to go about your reading. I've already shuffled the deck. Already been kind of sitting with what Aries has got in the pot. So our first card, our significator, is the Nine of Swords in reverse. Now, this particular card for me there's almost a sense of detachment from what would otherwise normally cause anxiety. It's almost like Aries is sitting in this soup of feelings, but it isn't really affecting us. Right now, I feel like Aries is interacting with the world from a detached space. It's kind of above the situation, not necessarily in a way that evokes superiority, but more in the sense that there's a quiet and calm clarity to the awareness that Aries is harnessing at the moment. And with that, a surprisingly clear view of what's going on. Kind of a sense of approaching the cards, not necessarily to tell you what you don't know, but more to confirm that you already know that you already know. Covering you, we've got the Five of Pentacles. So there is a sense of material instability, uncertainty about maybe it's a job, or maybe you're unemployed, maybe you are looking for new ways to amass wealth. And normally you might feel very anxious about this, but I think a lot of us have kind of come out of the last few years feeling a little weathered. So there's not necessarily like a careless energy, but there's a sort of whatever comes is what's going to come, and you're kind of sitting in that space and just sort of operating from a place where you know that the only thing that you can control is how you respond to the situations and how you direct your energies. And I think that's kind of fortifying you with a sense of confidence. We do have the King of Wands crossing you. So to me, this is like tapping into the unadulterated Aries, where the energy is powerful and sharp and radiant, but it's focused and it's directed with will. It's not being strewn haphazardly into things that don't necessarily matter, or maybe there's old things. I mean, we'll kind of get to see as the reading progresses, and I'll try to tie everything together. But there's this sense of assuredness that I think Aries is kind of embodying at the moment, which might even be a little surprising to Aries. It's almost like you're aware of your self-assuredness from the outside looking in, and it doesn't feel wrong, but it's striking to you that this is where you are at the present time. At the root of the reading, at the bottom, we have the Queen of Wands. And again, this is just really more of a confirmation of what the King of Wands was kind of getting across, this sense of self-assuredness. With the two court cards together, I'm not almost, but there could be another person who's kind of mirroring this back to you from a slightly different angle, but nonetheless is the same sort of energy, and it's kind of helping you to understand where you are in the midst of things right now. This person could be helping you to hold space for yourself and for the decisions that you're about to be making. Because right now I definitely get the sense that Aries is on the cusp of something, not necessarily that Aries has already initiated something. Obviously that's not going to be the case for all of you, but in the past we have the Ten of Pentacles. So a completion of a material cycle, a completion of an old modus operandi. You've paid your dues in one way or the other, and you've gathered your resources that you could from the situation that you've been in. You've kind of reached the top already of whatever the situation is for you, and now it's time to consider your place at the end of that. What's the beginning that follows? What's the new cycle that's going to come? At the crown of the reading, we have the Nine of Cups in reverse. So I'm feeling a strong connection to that Ten of Pentacles with that Nine of Cups, and it's almost giving me the sense that, yeah, you've reached this place, not necessarily a fulfillment, but you've reached the pinnacle of some sort of material situation, and you've kind of milked it for what you could, and it wasn't satisfying in some level. There's a sense that whatever you got out of that situation may have been enough on one level, materially especially, or it may not have, but it may have provided some sense of comfort or stability in some area of your life, while simultaneously not meeting your fundamental needs, especially emotional needs. You could have been very unhappy in the situation. And kind of calling back to the Nine of Swords that we had as your significator. And there's it's like you've been through the ringer so many times already. You've come to the end of this situation, and where in the past you might kind of wallow in the feelings of hopelessness and despair or disappointment or anxiety about the future. But again, like I've said, you've kind of already weathered so many storms that at this point you're just kind of in a state of allowance, more so than you typically are. And I think that's a good thing, because that's when Aries is able to shine most effectively, is when Aries feels unimpeded and unburdened by anything, because energy likes to flow freely, and that's what Aries represents. It's that free flowing wellspring of energy from which everything comes out of. It's the initiatory point. It's where the light begins, where the light pours forth upon the material world. Before you, we've got the Lovers in reverse. For some of you, it could be a marriage that's ending, some sort of breaking apart of the family, a relationship is kind of breaking apart, or it's already broken apart, and it's kind of like you're in the aftermath. And either, like I said, either you haven't really felt the mess of feelings that you normally would in a situation like this, or you've already kind of processed everything, and now you're in the quiet that comes after that. But it is still a focus for you. It's still very relevant for what you're experiencing right now. It's like that old relationship, or that old contract, or that former situation that you were in relationship in some way, where you were dynamically interacting with this situation. It's like it doesn't hold any power over you anymore, but it's still something that there's something that you can still learn from. Next we have the Six of Pentacles. It could be that the energy around you feels I don't know, it feels secure and assured, like I was saying, and with that, you're able to provide and hold space for others in one form or another. Most likely it's material, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. You could just be providing like the physical space for some form of support, or literally providing money for support, or just giving of your time and your resources. Or maybe somebody is doing that for you. And it could be this whoever this person is that is represented by this interaction between the King of Wands and the Queen of Wands. I do definitely still feel like there's at least two people involved. And there's definitely some sort of interaction taking place, some sort of exchange, and obviously we have 3 cards left, and I'm not necessarily getting the sense that there's a new relationship that's kind of moving in, but it could be that you've met somebody. If you're one of the people that have kind of come out of an old relationship and are moving on from that space, it could be that you've met somebody new, and interacting with them is kind of making you go back over the experiences that you've just gone through, and processing them in a different way than you did on your own. And it's requiring you to devote your time and energy into being open to it, into allowing it. Because with that sense of assuredness, there's a more of an emphasis placed on the intention behind your movements, behind the choices that you're making. You're not haphazardly choosing left and right, just based on whim or reaction. You're really kind of in a slow and deliberate stage. So you're being very cautious and being very, I don't know if balanced is the right word, but it's the only word that's coming to mind with how you're going about things, especially with this other person, if this is a situation that resonates with you. The people around you are being represented by the Seven of Pentacles. So there's definitely a sense that they're kind of waiting for you to show the results of the work that you've been doing, the time that you've been setting aside for a project or a relationship. My art supplies just fell, so that's a pertinent little note to self. But there's definitely a sense that it might be making the other people around you uneasy, because they haven't seen the outward physical manifestation of your efforts, the results of your efforts, I should say. Even though you might feel them, you might know them, you might see them and perceive them on your own, you just haven't necessarily putting them out there on the world stage, so to speak. Because I don't necessarily get the sense that you're dawdling, at least not completely. There is definitely effort being put forth on your part. So maybe this card is more of like a reminder not to get so hung up on the expectations that other people have placed upon you with where you're at right now. Being aware of it doesn't hurt, but don't let it shackle you and halt your movement altogether. Keep this momentum going. Obviously, continue being deliberate and careful about it, because that is the best way that Aries can move in the world, is to be deliberate and methodical and controlled. It's very difficult, but when an Aries gets to that point, it's powerful and it moves mountains. It creates worlds. So, with the hopes and fears, we have the Queen of Swords in reversed. And she's right over here next to the Lovers. From my angle, it kind of looks like she's looking over at them. Could be that this is the past relationship. There could be a part of you that is afraid that the space you're moving into, whether it's another relationship or job or living situation, is just going to be a repeat of what you've already gone through, and that you're just going to see and experience the same things that you've already experienced, and it's not going to take you into any new direction, and it's just going to be a waste of time. But I don't think, at this point, I don't think that that's actually what's happening. That situation is done. Whatever callbacks and echoes that you perceive moving forward to that former situation, it's just like milestones letting you know that you are moving, that you're moving forward, and it's almost like a little checkpoint so you can see how far you've moved, how far you've come in relation to the past. There could also be a part of you that is hoping for some element of the past to remain in this new cycle that you're going into as well. You know, in addition to being afraid that you're just repeating that same thing, there is some element of it that you want to take with you. And I think on some level it could just be the wisdom that you've gleaned from the experience, the newfound sense of self that you've acquired as a result. It was hard won, and you don't want to lose that. I don't think you will. And for our final outcome card, we've got the Three of Pentacles. You know, really honing your craft. And putting it out there on the world stage. You know, calling back to that Seven of Pentacles, people are waiting on you because I think there's a sense that you are working on something. And even if there's a level of impatience on their part, you know, it's not your problem. It's not your prerogative to worry about what they're projecting onto you. But you have been working on something. And maybe the sense of being on the precipice that I got in the beginning of the reading was leading into this, was leading into you finally presenting the world with your work, with could also be presenting a new identity, a new self-image, but I'm feeling more of a focus on something more day-to-day. You know, the earth element with the pentacles, it's just, there's more of a focus on practical matters. Maybe you're choosing the route of self-employment, or a new position, or building a house, or something. There, you know, this outcome is leading into finally releasing that, you know, beginning the marketing strategy, so to speak, or implementing it, I should say, not necessarily strategizing. You've already kind of, not finished, but you've already done enough of that to know where you're going. And now it's just a matter of crystallizing it into a flesh and blood, stone, in paper, real circumstance. So finally providing manifestation and form for the idea or the ideas or the relationship that you've been working on. I think Aries is doing pretty well. You know, and it could look like Aries is not doing well from the outside. And there could be an element of breakdown. But there's an awareness of its necessity, an awareness of its worth, and how sacred and how powerful it is. And how sacred and how powerful Aries is. So I don't think y'all have much to worry about. Right place, right time. You're just flowing. Or you're about to be. All it takes is your intent to do so. So, when you're ready, open up, blossom. Let it unfold and trust that the work that you've done is enough. There will always be more work to do, but you've done it. You've done the work that you need to do to move into this new reality, this new cycle, however that's manifesting. So trust in the process, trust in yourself. You've earned it. All right, that's all for today. Wish you the best.